Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be upgrading the RAM of my laptop, reapplying the thermal paste and cleaning the inside. So this is a Lenovo G50-70 kind of a tutorial. So the first thing you want to do is unclip the battery by sliding the sliders and it just pops out. So let's put that to the side. Now you want to turn the laptop around and unscrew the 3 screws. Make sure to choose a good screwdriver so you don't strip your screws. I have this real nice small set, got it from AliExpress, and you just want to unscrew all 3 screws and put them aside. There we go. Now you can just slide back the cover and put that to the side. So the first thing you want to do is remove the RAM, because we're going to disassemble the whole thing. So pop it out. As you can see, I have a RAM XL 4GB stick, 1600. And now let's remove the hard drive. So you want to remove the 4 screws. And then just slide it to the left, just like that. And pull it out and put it to the side. If you have an SSD, you can also replace it or like add it. So now we're going to remove the disk drive, so remove that screw right there. And as you can see, I have paper with labels on them so I know which screw is which, and I can rebuild everything easily. So once you remove the disk drive screw, you want to pull it out. It comes out real easily, just like that. And also put that to the side. Now let's remove the fan. There are 3 screws. I want to remove them. There we go. And there's also a little pin thing. I want to remove it. Make sure to pull from the white plastic, not from the cables, because it will rip and damage the cable, so you're gonna have to like fix it or buy a new fan. So just pull from the white thing and not from the cables. And as you can see, it's dusty, so I'll clean that later. Now I want to remove all the screws on the outside and inside to remove the case. And also be careful, the 2 screws behind the battery are different from the ones on the outside, and so label everything, because not all screws are the same. Some of them are 2.5 millimeters, some of them are 2 millimeters. So make sure to label everything. Now I want to remove the Wi-Fi adapter or slash card cables. Just pull them out. Just like that. And now you want to unscrew the Wi-Fi card and remove it. You just want to pull it out and make sure not to drop it like I did. Thankfully it still works, and you don't actually have to remove the cables, just keep them in. I removed them because I didn't know that. And you can see there's a sticker, Lenovo sticker, and behind that there's a screw for the keyboard. So make sure to remove the sticker. It's really fragile, so it's probably gonna break. I just removed it as best as I can. And don't forget that, because it's stuck to the keyboard and you can't remove the keyboard unless you unscrew the screw. So once you remove it, all screws should be gone. And now we can flip the laptop and remove the keyboard. can see the metal plate that's behind the fan. You want to push up and the keyboard will pop out and snap the clips. They won't actually break, they just click. And once you remove all of them, the keyboard should lift off. Make sure not to pull on it too hard because there's the connector cable, and it's really fragile, so if you break it, you're gonna have to buy a new keyboard. So now you want to unclip the keyboard. You can use your fingers. I'm just using this pick because it was easier. So you just want to clip it out like that and pull the cable. Just like that. And now I want to put the keyboard to the side. Now there's this other cable, you want to disconnect it. It's the same mechanism, and just pull it out. And then there's the other one, you want to do the same thing, just clip it and pull out the cable. Just like that. And there's also the third one. You want to unclip it, but you can't remove the cable because it's under the metal plate, so you'll remove that later. Now we're gonna remove the top cover by clicking the clips with a pick, or you can use your fingers, but that's gonna break your fingernails. So if you have anything flat like a card or the back of a screwdriver or something, you just want to clip all the sides, front and the sides, right and left. So you want to make sure they're all unfastened to be able to remove the top. Took a bit of time, but be gentle and slow because you don't want to break any of them. So just follow as I do. You can see it started to open, but there are still some clips in the back that didn't fasten, so I'm gonna go back and remove them. And it's finally off. That took a good 10 minutes to do, so be very gentle. Don't want to break anything, as I said before, and you just want to put it to the side. Let me just shake the laptop, and there we go. There's the screw that I dropped in the laptop, so you can see there's a lot of dust on the motherboard and the inside. But anyways, you want to unclip the hard drive cable and this one, just like the other ones, and you want to unclip the white connector. So now you want to unscrew the 3 screws that are on the motherboard. Make sure to also label them because they're different from the rest. And once you did that, you want to turn the laptop over so you're looking at the back, and remove the black connector cable and the small white one. This white one, you can't pull it from the cables because it's quite difficult to remove and there's glue on it, but make sure not to pull too hard to not damage the cable. So now you can flip the laptop back over and finally remove the motherboard. Should come out easily. If it doesn't, then you missed a screw. And there we go. It's very dusty, so I'm gonna clean that off. And you can put the chassis elsewhere. Also be careful, to not drop it because the screen is heavier than the base. So I'm putting a paper to protect the table and the motherboard. Just gonna put the motherboard on it and actually flip it on this side so I can remove the dust. So to remove the dust, you want a cotton pad or something similar and alcohol. I'm using 70% because that's what I have. I think you can use 98%. And I'm just gonna remove all the dust. For tighter spaces, you can use a earbud and alcohol and just remove the dust. There we go, it's all clean. So as you can see, that's the heat sink and the cooling area. So now we're on the other side. I'm gonna remove some more dust. And the dust is gone now. So what I'm gonna be doing in this video is adding thermal pads to have better cooling, not for the CPU but for like the other components. I'm gonna be adding thermal paste, thermal grizzly. I know that's a fake because it looks fake. It comes with this alcohol pad and a thermal paste spreader. And I'm gonna be adding another stick of RAM. It's a 4GB stick from Kilsire or Kilsire, however you pronounce it. If you want to upgrade your RAM, make sure to buy the exact same type that you had before, at least the same specifications. And you're also going to need a scissor to cut thermal pads if you have some. Now we're going to unscrew the screws on the heatsink. So you want to unscrew them. The order doesn't really matter while unscrewing, just the order that you screw them in, which matters. Now that you remove the screws, you want to remove the heat pipe and the heat sink. It might be hard because the thermal paste is old and it's kind of like solidified. So you want to remove it. And as you can see, there's a lot of it on the heatsink and the CPU and GPU. If you have another model, you might not have the GPU, which is this one right here. If you don't, you can just follow the same steps but without it. So to clean it, you want to use a earbud with alcohol and just gently remove the thermal paste. Make sure to not leave any fibers, cotton fibers on it, because that's gonna damage it. Now that we removed all the thermal paste, we can move on to the CPU and just do the same thing. Also, make sure not to be too rough on them because they might crack, and if they do, then the CPU is dead or the GPU. I'm gonna be using the pad that came with thermal paste because why not? It removes bigger quantities, and you really want to be gentle because the components are fragile. Make sure to remove as much thermal paste as you can because it might interfere with the heat dissipation. And there we go, we're finally done. Both the GPU and CPU are clean. Well, mostly clean. I did the best as I can to remove it. It kind of like caked into the CPU. So now let's open the thermal paste and take it out of the packet. Comes with a little paper with some instructions on it. It's not even the same tube that I bought. So anyways, here's the thermal paste. As I said before, it is fake, but it's the only thing I have. Right there, clearly fake, but it's not bad. And of course, I forgot to clean the heatsink, so let's clean that right now. You can be a little more rough on this because it's not really fragile, but you don't want to bend anything. I'm using a cotton pad because it's faster. And it's clean. So let's finally apply the thermal paste. Let's open the cap and apply it. Let's start with the GPU. You really want a small amount because you can see compared to the GPU, it's really small. So just a dot like that, nothing more. But you also don't want too little because then it might not cover the whole spreader. And for the CPU, it has two parts. So the one on the left, the small square, just put a small dot, and the long one you can put a line or 3 small dots next to each other. I put a line because it's what I did. And don't put too little and not too much. Now that we put the thermal paste, you want to put the heatsink. Be careful, don't want to like hit anything. And once you put it on, don't remove it because then you might get air bubbles in the thermal paste and that's gonna cause overheating, which you don't want. So just place it on, wiggle it a little bit, and screw the screws. You can see there's a number 1 to 7 on the heatsink, so you want to screw in that order: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and don't screw too loosely or too tightly. everything's finally screwed in, you can just quickly re-screw them to make sure they're all tight, and we're done. So bring back the case, and you can see this is also dusty, so I'm gonna remove the dust from it, because you don't want to open your laptop and not remove the dust, because then I'm sure you wouldn't want to do this again. Probably the first and last time I'm gonna open the laptop, because it took like 2 hours to do the whole thing, even more because it's 2 hours of recording, so it's more of not recording, whatever. So just remove as much dust as you can. Then you want to take your motherboard, and because I have thermal pads, I'm gonna put them on the chips and similar stuff, the VRMs that distribute power. So for example, that thing, I don't know what it is, but I'm gonna put a thermal pad on it. So if you have one, you can put them now. If you don't, just skip forward. There'll be timestamps in the comments and in the description. So we want to approximately cut the size and shape of the heat pad and put it wherever you want. And make sure to remove the plastic from both sides. There we go. Now let's flip the motherboard over and keep putting more heat pads. So these are the VRMs, they distribute power, I think, to like the CPU and stuff. So we just want to cut small squares. And if you're wondering, this is a 2mm pad. You can use 1mm or 1.5, but I'm using 2mm because that's what I have. It doesn't really matter, it just has more heat dissipation mass, and it doesn't interfere with anything else. So you just want to put them on everything that you see. I'm just putting them on the small chips and stuff. So this is the final result. I also put some heat pads on the heat pipe, so it has more cooling. Now you want to flip the motherboards back over and put it how it was. Make sure not to break the cables. So just like that, and you want to put back the cables into the connector and snip them in. Make sure they're in there tightly, because if they're not, you're gonna have to reopen the case and the whole laptop and redo everything to reopen it and connect them properly. So make sure they're in there tightly, and you can pull on them to test if they're really in there. Now you want to lift it up before screwing it back in, and put in the white connector that you removed before, because if you screw it in, you can't lift up the motherboard and plug it back. So make sure it's in there nice and tightly. Now you want to take your screwdriver and screw in the motherboard screws. Make sure they're the same ones that you removed before. So there are 3. There we go, and I'm gonna add another thermal pad right there, because why not? And right there, because I had some extra. So now you want to take the laptop and turn it upside down. You can see some thermal pads fall out, but that's okay. I'll put them back later. So just turn it around You can close the laptop screen, but I didn't because it's easier to record this way. And you want to connect back the connectors. So first the white one, you want to put it back, make sure it's in there really well, because if it's not, as I said before, you're gonna have to reopen the case, which is really annoying. After you plug that in, you want to take the black cable and also plug that in. Might take a couple tries, but you'll get it eventually. And just press on it, even if it feels wrong, just press. Now I want to take back the top case and put it on the motherboard area. And just take the cables and pull them out. Now you want to clip on the outside of the case. Make sure you have no more screws for the inside, like the motherboard screws, and everything's plugged in. And just clip all the sides, make sure they're all done. I missed a few, but I went back to them later. Didn't really matter. There we go. Now you want to put back the connector cables, just like we did before, inside the case. Just put it in and make sure it's in there. Then the touchpad. Just like that. So now you can flip it back and start putting things. So we're gonna start with the Wi-Fi card. So just put it in at an angle. Just like that, and then you want to press down and screw it in. Make sure you get the correct screw. So just hold it down and screw it in. Then if you removed the cables, you want to just put them back how they were. If you didn't, then good for you. So now you want to connect them back. So the white cable is on the bottom, the black one on top. So you see that it's written main. Main is the black cable, aux is the white one. Make sure you don't get them confused, because then I don't know what happens, but it's probably not gonna work. This might take some time to plug them back in. Once you're done with that, you want to take the screw that looks like this and screw the outside. I had a couple screws missing, so if you see me not screwing in some of them, it's because they weren't there for some reason. So you want to put everything back in except for the keyboard screws, so the 3 that are in the middle, because we still didn't put in the keyboards. So if you screw them in, you're gonna have to take them back out. And make sure for the screws that are behind the battery, to put in the correct ones because they are different from the rest. And as I said, the 3 screws, you don't want to put those in because they're for the keyboard. Now let's put back the fan, but first I'm gonna clean it because it's dusty. So just with a toothbrush and alcohol and earbuds and stuff, you just want to remove all the dust that you can. Once it's clean, you can put it back in. The sticker is down. You want to put it back and then screw it back in. Make sure you use the correct screws. They look like that. Now let's put back the hard drive. So you want to take it, make sure it's the correct direction. You can see the pins right there. You want to put them on the same side as the connector. You want to put it to the right and then slide it to the left, and make sure it slides in all the way so it's properly connected. Just like that. Then we're gonna screw them back in with these screws. Make sure you use the correct ones, as I said before. Now that we're done with that, we can put back the disk drive on the right. It has some fingerprints or something. Tried to remove it, but I couldn't. So I'm not sure what it is. So just slide it in, and then we're gonna screw it back. The screw that's right there. Make sure you use the correct one. Looks like that. So just screw it in. Now we can put in the RAM. If you want to upgrade your RAM, now is the time to do it. So you just want to put in your other stick, or it should already be there if you're just upgrading your RAM. Take your new stick. I have this one. Make sure it's the same type, and there are actually 2 types of RAM. There's more, but like 2 main types. One that runs on 1.5 volts and one that runs on 1.35. So check which one your laptop uses, because if you get a 1.5 volt RAM stick and put it into a 1.35 volt RAM slot, it's not gonna work. But the opposite works. So 1.35 volt stick will work in a 1.5 volt slot. So you want to align the small slot on the RAM stick with the plastic bit on the laptop and just push it in at an angle, then press down, and the metal clasps on the sides should automatically close on it. Now I want to take the screw and screw in the RAM slot thing. Not sure what it does, probably just a screw to hold everything together. I want to screw that in. Now don't forget to plug in the fan connector cable. or then the fan isn't gonna work and your computer is gonna overheat. Just like that. And now it's time to put back the keyboard. So we want to take it from where you put it. Make sure it's the correct way. Then we're gonna have to connect the cable. But first of all, I'm just gonna clean this because it's kind of dusty and has fingerprints everywhere. So just with a cotton pad and alcohol, I'm gonna wipe it down. Just like that. Now let's put it back in. So we want to take the cable, put it into the clasp thing, then clip it down, make sure it's well connected. And also make sure that all the other connectors are connected. Now I just want to clip in the keyboard. Make sure to put in the front of the keyboard in first, and then the right of it, then the left. And you can see the mouse, the touchpad left click wasn't in there, wasn't looking very well. It's just because I didn't clip in the outside of the laptop. So make sure you do that well. Now just clip in the keyboard. Make sure not to break any of the clips. And there we go. We're done. Finally, after 2 hours. More than 2 hours. So now, just want to put in the rest of the keyboard screws. The 3 that I said not to screw in before. As you can see now, I'm just wiping the dust off the outside cover and removing the dust from inside the venting holes with a toothbrush. And now you just want to put the cover back on the open space and slide it in, just like that, and put in the 3 screws that we removed at the start. There's the first one, the second one, and finally the third one. Now you want to take your battery and put it back where it was. So you want to hold it like this and just push it in. Then make sure to lock it back in. Now, here's the aftermath of this operation. Let's open the laptop and see if it still works. Is it gonna turn on? So let's plug it in and plug in a mouse so I can use it. Will it turn on? It looks like it. We can hear the fan working. It's very loud. And we're finally on Windows. So let me just log into my account, and it's working. I was actually kind of scared because it took like 3 minutes to turn on, probably because of the new stick of RAM. It had to configure it and whatever. You can see that the touchpad is working, the Wi-Fi card is working because I can connect to a network and detect them, and the keyboard is working because I was able to look up stuff on Google and put in the password. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Let's just clap for myself real quick and check Task Manager to see if there are 8 gigs of RAM. And yes, there are. Everything is detected, thankfully. So now let's see the results of the performance. So I did the torture test on Prime 95 for 28 minutes. Before the operation, it did 4 tests in 28 minutes and got 78 degrees Celsius maximum. And these are the results for the second test. It got a maximum of 62 degrees Celsius, and it did 6 tests in 28 minutes. So compared to before, it did 6 tests in 28 minutes and the other one did 4. So it thermal throttled less, and yeah, the temperature also got lower by 18 degrees. So if you're wondering if you want to do this, I would, because I just did, and it was successful. So yeah, but if your laptop doesn't work anymore, don't blame me, because this is risky, I guess. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe and comment, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.